We only had 2 days in Manchester and honestly we nearly wasted a big chunk of it. In this video I'm sharing mistakes that tourists make when visiting Manchester, including a food mistake that I am very glad that we avoided. Mistake number 1 is not realising how walkable the city actually is. Now this sounds small but it makes a huge difference. Once you're actually in the city centre, Manchester is shockingly walkable. What looks massive on a map suddenly feels really compact on foot. Shopping areas, museums, food spots, cafes, they're all surprisingly close together. We ended up walking everywhere, even late at night after a few drinks in the pouring rain. Mistake number 2 is staying too far outside the city centre. Like with any city, the centre is often more expensive, so staying a little outside of the city centre is one way to try and save money. But the problem with doing this is that you can actually end up spending more money on transport into the city centre, and you'll also find that you're spending more time travelling to and from your hotel and that you'll have less time to explore the city. This is even harder when you're travelling with kids. When you book a city break, do you normally stay in the city centre or further out? Let me know in the comments below. Mistake number 3 is not planning for the weather. Now obviously, like most places in the UK, it is not always possible to plan for the weather, but the thing that I noticed with Manchester though is that the weather is even more unpredictable, so make sure you pack for all types of weather as you just never know. Mistake number 4 is skipping the Northern Quarter, and this is one that we nearly made. Someone told me that the Northern Quarter was just for nightlife, so we almost skipped it completely, and that would have been a big miss. During the day it is one of the most creative and relaxed parts of the city. There's great coffee spots, loads of food options, quirky shops and colourful street art everywhere. Now obviously it does get livelier later on, but it never felt overwhelming. Mistake number 5 is assuming that Manchester is an expensive city. Now I fully expected it to be pricey, but it really doesn't have to be. There are food halls, indie cafes and brilliant restaurants that won't break the bank. Plus there's loads of free museums and attractions, which is perfect if you're travelling on a budget. Mistake number 6 is missing the green spaces, and to be honest, this is one that we did make and I do regret it. Places like Heaton Park. There's also canal side walks and quieter areas that just give you a break from the city buzz. We just simply didn't have enough time. Now if this video is helping you already with your Manchester planning, please do give it a quick like as it really does help the channel. Mistake number 7 is not allowing enough time. Now Manchester is not really a one night stopover city. Sure, you can see a few highlights in one day, but it'll feel really rushed. I definitely recommend at least 2 to 3 nights. And now for one of the mistakes that I'm glad we didn't mess up, because this is so easy to do, especially if you're traveling with kids, and that is only eating at chain restaurants. Because Manchester has an incredible food scene, whether you want something relaxed or something a bit more special. We randomly found a Thai restaurant called Thai Kitchen Number 6, and honestly it's one of the best Thai meals that I've had anywhere in the UK. It took us straight back to being in Thailand. Amazing food and the staff was super friendly. A big follow-up tip here is don't pre-book every restaurant before your trip, and this is something I do a lot, because some of the best places we found were just walking around the city during the day. That's how we stumbled across Salou, a brilliant little wine snack spot we both love. Mistake number 9 is not taking advantage of the free museums. Now this is another mistake that we kind of half made. We visited the Manchester Art Gallery, which was great and I definitely recommend it, but we missed the Manchester Museum and the Science and Industry Museum. Both of those are completely free and really interactive, which makes them perfect if you're traveling as a family. Mistake number 10 is not checking local events. Now events, they don't just mean crowds, they mean high prices and limited availability. Hotels get expensive, restaurants book up, and the city just feels a lot busier. Obviously Manchester is one of the most football focused cities in the world, so always check if there are any home games during your stay. Planning around these events is going to make a massive difference to your experience. So if you've been to Manchester before, I'd love to hear your own tips. Drop them in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe if you want honest, family tested city guides, no fluff, no hype and no pretending that every place is perfect.